Welcome to the One Step Wealthier podcast, where I help you to get a little bit better every day and to achieve your financial goals. Follow along with me, and every week we will talk about all things personal development and personal finance. Together, we can get one step wealthier. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another One Step Wealthier episode. Today, I wanted to talk about how saving money alone won't get you far, and how I figured it out in the hard way, and how I wish I knew somebody would have told me that before. So I was always really good at saving, even in my underpaid call center jobs and in any other job that I had that was underpaid, pretty much all of them. I was very good at saving. I was always putting some money aside. I was always managing to save something at the end of the month, no matter how low my income was. So I was mastering that part. I was actually a PhD in that part because it's hard sometimes to save on a very low income, but I was somehow managing to do it. So it was amazing. And what I was doing, I was putting some money aside every single month into my bank account. And then I was watching that money go a little bit up because I was obviously putting a bit more every month. And then I would travel with that money, and I felt like I kind of like mastered the show a little bit, but I still kept looking at those people that were affording not to work for 5, 10, 15 years. And I was thinking, how do they do that? Because that money eventually, the money that I put in the bank account, it's going to be over eventually. And that's for everyone. And I thought that was kind of like a thing that everyone was exposed to. And I didn't really know how people lived off of their money without working. And how I felt like unless I saved $1 million, I'd never be safe. Because even if I had 20, 30, 40,000, eventually that would get me only so far. And eventually I will have to come back into the workforce. So my brain was always working and my brain was always thinking about that. Not always, but sometimes it was questioning that. How can I do that? And how will I be able to survive without any income from any job at all? But it took me a long time to figure it out, let's say. Hey, I just wanted to pause for a second and let you know that I made something for you. It's a free guide called Start Investing Without Freaking Out. I created it for women who want to invest but feel like it's not for people like us. It's a guide I wish I had 10 years ago when I had no idea where to begin. Just click the link in my Instagram bio at One Step Wealthier or in the description below to grab it. Now back to the episode. So what is the problem with me putting the money into my bank account and just not touching it and saving it for a bigger purpose? What's the problem with that? So the problem with savings is that inflation eats away at savings. So inflation is like this flatmate that you have that steals your food little by little, but you kind of like not noticing it, but you kind of like thinking, did I have 5 bananas and why do I only have 3? Do I sleepwalk or is somebody's nicking my food? So inflation is something similar. It happens very slowly that you realize that the £10 that you have today was worth much more 10 years ago than today. But that happens gradually. You don't notice that from one day into another. So €1 today is worth less tomorrow. That's inflation. Okay. So your money quietly loses power every year, year by year. And then you realize that at some point with €5, you could go to the cinema, get the popcorn and get the taxi home. Not anymore. You can't even get the popcorn now. And me storing the money in that bank means that my money is not growing at all. So it actually gets eaten away by inflation, and banks, they give almost no interest whatsoever. I mean, the best ones probably is 3.5%, but that's kind of the best there is. And that figure is always lower than inflation, because otherwise, why would banks give money for free? In the end, you end up losing. You end up losing a little bit less, but you end up losing as well. So let's take a real example of inflation. 2% inflation over 10 years is actually losing you 20% in your buying power of your money. Let's think about it for a moment. 2% inflation is actually the target number. It's actually the minimum inflation that is healthy for the economy. Because if we go into the nitty-gritty, inflation is actually healthy for an economy, okay? So if a healthy economy has to have a little bit of inflation, otherwise people hoard their cash, they don't buy anything, and the economy would slow down. So 2% is the normal. What we have seen in the post-COVID years, we haven't seen 2%. We've seen 11%. So 2% inflation is the very minimum. So, and what didn't I know about money? So I was very good at saving, but what I didn't know is that investing your money can actually outpace inflation. So you can actually be better off with inflation if you are putting that money to work a bit more. The reason why inflation happens is because there's new money being printed, and if there is more money in the economy, that money automatically loses its value. So with big cash injections, as we've seen during COVID, that caused a very high inflation because suddenly the money appeared out of nowhere because nobody was producing it and everybody had money. And that is actually bad for the economy. The same as if somebody will give every single person $1 million tomorrow, nobody would be working and everybody would inflate their prices. And in the end, a haircut will cost you $50,000. So more money and raising minimum wage and injecting more money in the economy is not necessarily a good thing sometimes. So the inflation does not actually affect your finances. You have to buy assets. And you have to buy assets such as stocks or property that grow or produce income. So you have to be willing to invest your money in assets that grow beyond inflation. Okay. So if you don't invest, your money isn't working and it is just waiting to die slowly under your mattress if you keep it there, or in your bank account, like I was doing. It was just dying slowly and I was losing my buying power year by year without actually knowing it. I did a podcast a few weeks ago about gold, and gold is actually not bad for inflation because it usually grows with the inflation. So you can see how the inflation is growing because the gold is also growing. It's a good inflation hedge, but it moves only with the inflation. It doesn't actually grow faster than the inflation. Okay. So it is always good to have a little bit of gold in your portfolio for security, but then you cannot just buy gold and expect your money to grow very fast because it won't. So as I mentioned before, stocks and property, they are the ones that generally outpace inflation and grow wealth. And this is long term. Okay. This is not from one year to another. This is actually with a very long time horizon. Stocks and property, they usually outpace inflation. We are thinking long term here. So rule of thumb, do not invest what you will need in the next year or two. Because if the markets go down, then you can actually end up losing. So that's going to be worse than the inflation. So you have to only invest the money that you can live without in the next 5, 6, 7 years. Okay. And if you're investing long term, that's how the real wealth is built. When you invest with a long-term horizon without looking at daily price movements of the stocks. Financial freedom works in a way that one day your investments will cover your lifestyle. And that's when you become financially independent. And saving is the first step. And investing is the second one. And it's not one without the other. You cannot invest without saving, and you cannot save without investing. So yes, definitely save your money as much as you can without depriving yourself, obviously. But also invest what you don't need right now, because that's how your money grows. Towards the end of this podcast episode, I would like to ask you, so are you just saving or you're also investing? Message me if you are only saving your money and you don't know how to start to invest it. We can maybe brainstorm together. If this episode resonated with you and you want to talk about your money journey, I'm opening up a few free coaching spots. Just message me on Instagram, One Step Wealthier, or email me onestepwealthier@gmail.com. No pressure, just a chat. And I hope that my today's reflections have motivated you to start investing. Remember, the best time to invest was yesterday and the second best is today. And please note that I do not know your situation and this is not individual financial advice. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions. You have just invested in your personal development by listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here and helping yourself to become one step wealthier. Don't forget to subscribe to access new content every week and to better yourself. Stay wealthy, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.